Thank you. As Maria said, this is part of the big IPM project, and we can say that the insect part of the project is much smaller than the disease part. So the subject on insect pests is a small subject compared to what we have been doing about diseases. So here right after lunch we are going to look a little bit on some insect larvae. So I think that is a good time for that. What we look at here, I wanted to say also that this project here, we didn't do any practical experiments in the part about insect pests. We only did a little literature review. So this is only based on literature review, this update on integrated management of insect pests on Scandinavian golf courses. And the experiments that I refer to are, you can say, other experiments done by others. Yeah, when we say insect pests on Scandinavian golf courses, we focus on chafer grubs and leather jackets. These are the two species that do severe damage on golf courses in Scandinavia, especially in the southern part of Scandinavia, in Denmark and southern Sweden. We also have the marsh flies, with several species that can do damage also to golf courses, but I'll focus here on chafer grubs and leather jackets. The chafer grub first, here we have the adult insect called the garden chafer. She swarm and lay eggs in end May or beginning of June, at least in Denmark, maybe a little bit later when you come northern up in Sweden and southern Norway. And after a few weeks, these eggs will hatch and we will get small larvae. And after a month or 1.5 months, we have these big chafer grub larvae, which is that are mainly a problem on sandy soils, on fairways and bunker edges. And these damages, you can see them. Depends, of course, when the grown-up insects has been swarming, but from end July to through August and in the beginning of September. And these grubs are eating the grass, the roots of the grass. The life cycle, just a short glimpse here, as I said. Swarming in May and small larvae. In fact, the small larvae living in the soil in June and beginning of July, they are eating organic material. So in fact, they're eating the thatch. So maybe or not maybe, but in their first larvae stages, they are beneficial for the soil and eating some of the thatch. But later on, they get bigger. They come up close to the closer to the soil, and then they or the surface of the soil, and they will eat a lot of grass roots, and they can do severe damages like the photos you see here. Not photos from this year or last year, but they are older photos here. But here you can really see some damages on some Danish fairways. They are mainly on fairways and bunker edges. They can occasionally also be seen on greens, but that's more rare. And what we see here are not only the damages from the chafer grubs, but also damages from birds, from crows, crow birds picking to make biological control of the chafer grubs, but maybe a too effective biological control because they're really destroying the turf while looking for these larvae. But it's rarely seen on greens. The crane flies, which are, you can say, the mothers of the leather jackets, are seen here, and they swarm around this. Maybe in 2 weeks ago or so, there was a big swarming of crane flies, and then we are here in late August, start September, where they swarm and lay their eggs. After 2 weeks, they have small larvae. The eggs hatch, and the small larvae is L1, L2, L3. In fact, they are also rather not harmful, maybe not beneficial, but not harmful to the turf. But later on, next year in spring, and especially in in the late larvae stage here, L4, they can be really damaging to grass and turf areas. Damages, it's not so often that you take in fact, I had problems to find a good photo of damages from leather jackets. So I got one from the Danish Golf Association. But often, yeah, you see the problems, you see the patches with the brown grass, but sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to see if it is leather jackets or if it's something else, maybe just a dry patch or so. Sorry. In fact, what you often see as a greenkeeper is this over here. You see the crane fly that's emerging from the pupae. This can often be seen in August, and you also see these empty pupas. They are standing up in the short mown grass on greens and tees. That's often I get a photo from the greenkeepers that they have taken a photo of this. That's funny. How widespread is the problem? I asked the Danish and Swedish course consultants in 2020, I think it was. And if you see the figures here, how big are the problems with damages from shepherd grubs and leather jackets? These figures here are not alarming. I mean, shepherd grubs in Denmark, it says 3 to 4% of damages. In Sweden, 1%. Leather jackets, 20% in Denmark, 5% in Sweden. So it's not great figures of, you can say, problems or damages on golf courses. But what is the problem is that in one single year, you can have really, really big problems with, for example, shepherd grubs. They are occasional in some years where there can be severe damages on some golf courses. But then you can have 5, 6 or 10 years where you have no problems, and then they'll come back again. And it's very difficult to forecast if the problem will come or not. That's the difficult thing about insects. You never know when they come. Damages from leather jackets are more frequent, are more uniform, so more or less every year you have more or less problems from leather jackets. As you all are aware, no pesticides are legal to use in Scandinavia against insects, so we have to turn to microbiological control. And here we have two things. We have the insect pathogenic nematodes that can infect the larvae, and they can reproduce inside the larvae, and they can spread to new larvae. So that's the nematodes that can be used. They can be used both against shepherd grubs and leather jackets. And we have another product that's it's called Gnatrol SC in Denmark. It's based on Bacillus thuringiensis. That's a bacteria that infect the leather jackets and kill them. It's only to be used against leather jackets. I mean, it's not effective against the shepherd grubs. And in fact, the Danish Golf Association has been doing a lot of experiments in Denmark because the problems have been biggest in Denmark, and this is a photo of one of their experiments with these biological control products. How do we handle the microbiological products? I think that's the key issue here, because often when we say you should use microbiological control, and a lot of you think, oh yeah, I know, I've tried once and it didn't work. But the key thing about this is to handle it in the right way, because we have to be aware of some certain things. They have to be handled like they are living organisms, because they are living organisms, these nematodes or bacteria. So when we transport them or store them, we have to have them in not a freezer but a fridge. We have to store them cool to keep them alive. We can also use, it says here in the mid picture here, we can use wetting agents. In fact, I was not aware of that, but you can mix them with wetting agents, and then you will get a better penetration into the soil. They are not killed if you add wetting agents to this mixture with water and these biological products. And then the most important thing is that because they are bigger than they're pretty big, then you have to remove all filters in your sprayer, and you must use pretty big nozzles also when you spray with them, and a lot of water, high quantities of water. And that can be a little bit difficult, because if you have been into a course where you learn how to use synthetic pesticides, you say, well, you should always put a lot of filters in your sprayer, and then when you use the biological products, then you should remove all the filters. So that's important. What's also very important here is that they are killed by sunlight. So spray early morning or evening on a cloudy day, then they can get into the soil before the sun destroys them, or the sunlight destroys them. And then immediately after spraying them out, you must be able to irrigate with the quantities I've noted here on fairway and on greens. So irrigation is also very important to do right after spraying. And then also not just right after, but also at least 2 weeks after the application of these products here, you should be able to irrigate these areas, because these, for example, the nematodes, they're not able to go from A to B by themselves. They need water to transport themselves in the soil. And the soil temperature must also be pretty high, or minimum 12 degrees of Celsius. So a lot of things has to be, you can say, ideal to make this work here. And also an important thing is that if you spray with them and they are in the thatch layer, they will probably be killed, because there are a lot of microbiology in the thatch layer, and too high competition from all the other bacteria, fungi, whatever, nematodes that's in the thatch layer. So you should try to incorporate them under the thatch layer, or ideally you shouldn't have a thatch layer, but that's not realistic. So that's also important. Methods to apply these, for example, the nematodes, there are special machines developed or modified. You can use a reseeder that's modified to incorporate them down under the thatch layer and away from the sunlight. These photos, I didn't take them myself, they're from Germany or the Netherlands, and I'm not sure, maybe there's a machine like this in Denmark now, or there's a machine like this in Denmark, running on golf courses or football pitches, golf courses. Okay, good. Does it work? Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, good. Other alternative methods to control these insect larvae are nest boxes for starlings. It's also important, if you have especially the shepherd grubs, you should be able to scare off the crow birds, and then you must know what is regulation about that. You can't just shoot them without a permit from the authorities. And also important to improve habitats for natural enemies. A lot of frogs, birds, not only the starlings, but a lot of different animals. Also predator insects are eating or are feeding on leather jackets and shepherd grubs, so that's important. A Danish greenkeeper at Viborg Golf Club did some experiments years ago where he irrigated the areas around his greens at midday at this week of swarming of the adult shepherd grubs, because then he was able to cool down the soil, and then he could avoid the shepherd or the garden shepherd from laying eggs. Of course, they would then fly to another place on the course and lay their eggs there, but at least he avoided to get these damages on the most sensible areas of his golf course. So I'm not quite sure if he's doing it right these years here now, but he did it some years ago. And of course, the golfers was also warned that this irrigation system could be turned on in the middle of the day, because it is just turned on for a few minutes and then it popped down again. But the golfers knew that this was happening. Summary of this. Garden Schäfer grubs, sandy soil mostly, can be controlled by the nematodes, the insect pathogenic nematodes, and the leather jackets. They are on wetter or more wetter areas. They can be controlled both by the nematodes and this Bacillus thuringiensis. I have used some info from a German company called INIMA. They produce the nematodes, and a Danish company called Borgård Bioplant. They sell these products here. And we have done 2 new IPM fact sheets on the leather jackets and Schäfer grubs in Danish. And we have done the report here together with Peter Edman. Where is he now? Yeah, but Swedish consultant, Danish consultant too. Thank you.